We do live in a changing world, a world that's increasingly hostile to Christianity, a world that constantly assumes that God's not relevant to any number of things. And so being a Christian school doesn't mean for us just having Bible classes or chapels or supplementing a lesson with a Bible verse that uses a similar concept. Those are okay, but a good Christian education, the way we see it today, is that we're embedding in our kids the assumption that God is relevant to everything. Part of being intentional about being biblical in our teaching is selecting tools and ideas and truths that'll work in a variety of settings. So hopefully in this video you'll see some demonstrations at all levels and a variety of courses that teach basically the same kinds of truths that we're trying to teach across all of our classes and all of our grades.
Well, recently my first grade class participated in the activity of producing crayons. I set up the project as like a crayon production factory, different assembly lines for sorting the crayons, peeling the crayons in preparation for melting them. Our factory experience incorporated biblical worldview integration, including honoring God in our work, economics, and science. As a culmination of our experience in the factory, I've prepared a worldview integration lesson using one of the integration tools. The tool I'm using is the Awesome Activator, and it's a graphic organizer, but it's also some questioning. It's designed to help my students make connections between our factory experience and God's bigger picture. So that's the lesson you're about to view.
If crayons weren't made, your pictures would be black and white.
Yeah, it would be pretty boring if everything was in black and white, wouldn't it? Sophia?
If we didn't have crayons right now in this time, there wouldn't even be a rainbow.
Oh, and the rainbow is beautiful, isn't it? The whole universe was spoken into existence by God's willing choice. Who created and owns all the things on earth?
God!
Of course. The earth and everything in it belongs to God. It has great importance for God and for humans. Raise your hand. What did God tell humans to do with all the things He created? Elena?
Take care of them?
Yes, we are told to take care of the things God created. God wants humans to take care of and rule over earth and everything in it. Let's look at one more important truth, and this one kind of sums up a lot of what we've talked about today. We are to love the Lord our God with all our strength. Our classroom is also a place of work. We can apply things that we learned about the fruits of the Spirit, getting along, solving problems, the things we learned in the factory, to our work in the classroom. Because what is your job right now? You don't work in a crayon factory every day. What is your job? Going to school is my job. Raise your hand and tell me something you learned in the crayon factory as we produced those crayons that you can apply here in the classroom. Thor?
It's hard work.
That it's hard work, yes. We have to really persevere and keep working even when the job is hard. Olivia?
Being nice.
Being nice to each other, being kind. I really appreciate the flexibility of it. The Awesome Activator, sometimes I start with just the thought in the middle, and the kids help me fill in the bubbles based on the truths that we've been learning. And other times I fill it in kind of like I did in this lesson, and we kind of explore from there and have, look at the questioning. So it just provides a lot of flexibility. I appreciate that it ties into every subject that we're doing. So we're able to, pull in that theology of work and a biblical worldview, whether we're talking about science or history or language arts or even math.
My name is Liz Brown. I teach middle school science, life science, and earth science. And right now we're learning about the bones. And so as a class, we talked about what careers would also have to learn about this. And the kids chose careers that they would like to do as they get older. And then I gave them we got a worksheet from Mr. Overman, and it's called 50 Signs of a Well-Developed Theology of Work. However, for 7th graders, we called it 50 Sentences for a Healthy View of Work. And so I picked 5, and they had to tell me what that looked like in a job.
So I was thinking something maybe like a CIA agent or NSA. I haven't really decided yet, but I was thinking I'd be able to show love for my country and God and innocent people by possibly eliminating dangerous people and threats to keep people from harm, because a lot of people die for no reason at all.
I want to be an Egyptologist, so I was thinking like every morning I could have a Bible study for my work crew that helped me excavate and stuff. But then if word gets out that I'm doing this, I'm probably going to be killed by terrorists. So, but if that's what it comes to, I guess.
Well, what's something even more subtle than that? So doing your job every day, well, even more subtle than doing that, because you don't necessarily want to put yourself at risk, right?
I guess.
Like your actions can show that you're a Christian without even saying it, right?
Realize that God is all powerful and there is no problem that I face at work that is too difficult for Him.
All right, so God is all powerful. There is nothing that is too difficult for Him, right? That's the truth. What would that look like in a job?
I don't even know what I want to do for my job yet, so I guess I can just say what it would look like in a student.
Right, because that is your job.
So, I guess if you have a lot of homework and there's a test tomorrow, you just have to stay up and ask God for help.
And so you have to ask God for help, and you got to trust that He's going to help.
There's many tools, and they're all similar in that they ask questions, which I don't know about all grades, but I know middle schools have a lot of opinions and a lot of things they want to say. So they're an easy way to start questions, like the conversation starter. It gives you a lot of questions to ask the kids that they can think about and discuss amongst themselves, and then we talk about them as a group. I love the idea of asking them questions, asking them good questions that have already been thought out, and it's just a quick, easy reference. And then it gets them thinking on all the different subjects that we covered. These are tools that help me quickly as the kids are talking about something and I see we're getting deep into a subject. It's a tool for me to pull out and have questions ready to get them thinking about the deeper subject, the deeper matter.
In the 10th grade, we were about to start Alan Paton's Cry the Beloved Country. And so I needed to give them a little bit of historical background on the situation of apartheid in South Africa in order to integrate some biblical worldview concepts. I brought in the historical background material that I normally use, which is just a quick little blurb with some important terminology about the history of South Africa, the terminology of different people, settings, and then the definition of apartheid in a nutshell for us to work with. So they had, the actual immediate subject matter in front of them. But then I gave them on slips of paper pieces of those questions for contextualization from the conversation starter diagram resource. And specific questions such as, when I went ahead and filled in the blanks for them. So what does God think about apartheid? Or what how are we supposed to think about the issue of apartheid in terms of how we are created? Is this the use of apartheid or sort of the institutional implementing of apartheid in line with a biblical view of humanity or purpose, or is it not? Split them into small groups to have them consider these individually, just gave each group one, and then we came back to full group to sort of all throw our ideas into the middle. And it's great because then it gets us instantly in a worldviewish mindset as we then will pick up and move forward with the actual book in about a week.
In 1913, the Natives Land Act radically limited the amount of land that black South Africans were permitted to own. As the character Arthur Jarvis states in the novel, just 1/10 of the land was set aside for 4/5 of the country's people. The result of overcrowding led many black South Africans to migrate to Johannesburg to work in the mines. Those in power welcomed the influx of cheap labor but failed to provide adequate housing or services to address the mass migration.
From a Christian perspective, what determines whether the practice of apartheid is a good or bad endeavor?
Bad. Because because all men were created equal, because we are all sinners.
I thought you were going with the, Thomas Jefferson Declaration of Independence. I'm like, we're literally not American in this book, so that's not gonna, but okay.
Because biblically,
Mm-hmm.
we are all sinners, and also we were called to go out into all the world and share the gospel, not like despite all racial differences and such. So if we were to be separated, we would not be fulfilling that what God
Great.
calls us to do.
Great.
Everyone was living in harmony. There was no opposition. Everybody was living together in peace. But in harmony, so agreeing with the biblical view of creation.
And who's a part of creation that is not divided?
God's people.
Yeah, I know there were only 2 in that story, so there's that. But they didn't just stay 2 for a time. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's very interesting that in the language of racial separations and a lot of the language that people use to justify throughout history racial separation is looking at other human beings as less than human and therefore animals. You are not as human as I am human, so you don't matter. I can use you like I would use a workhorse or keep a dog as a pet. You are less human than I am. That's very dangerous and scary. Did you want to add anything? Nope, Ethan feels great. Ethan feels great about that. Who's my last crew? All right, you guys get the summing it all up question. How do you think God looks at apartheid and why?
He looks at it badly because first off, he made us in his image and we're all sinners, so no matter if we're black or white, we're male or female, or short or tall, we're all in his image, and being segregated just because the way we look or we act is just it's not the way God intended it to be. He intended us to be all unified and go out and spread his word.
What makes worldview integration successful is it can't be arbitrary. It can't be something that I'm doing just to do it and hope that I can kind of make it connect to my material. It needs to be a fairly seamless integration of my subject matter, the theme of the book I'm talking about, the characters, the plot, major symbolism, major concepts, major times in history. There shouldn't be a pretty obvious dividing line between when I'm talking about the book and then, and now we're switching gears to worldview. If it's going to be successful and it's going to be impacting, and if we're actually doing our jobs here at Grace Christian, then we are letting that be a seamless integration process. And I think that the RAP tools are so flexible that it makes the integration extremely possible in a way that I think even someone who is very experienced with worldview materials can use them, and someone who's not very experienced with worldview tools can use them.